All right, greetings everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I am your host, Shay Robinson. You know, it's always good to be on Hearts and Heels where we can talk about everything from your heart to your heels. And we're excited. Make sure you get connected to Hearts and Heels on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those places. Get connected, join us, let us know that you're with us and you're committed to this journey that we're taking. Um, it is February. We have been going through February, and February is going by super fast. I can only imagine what you think as much as I think. It is a lot going on, but I do want to say happy Valentine's to everybody. We should love each other always. We should always be talking about love and encouragement with each other. We should always be showing love romantically to one another. It is just good to be loved. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for our social media family. Make sure you let someone know that Hearts and Heels is on. Now we know the month of February. We have celebrated love. We have celebrated life. We have celebrated heart health. We have celebrated all these different things, including Black history. So I'm super excited tonight and super honored to have someone come on to and share what I consider a modern day story about the life of Kendrick Johnson. As we celebrate Black history, it is important that we not only look back, but we look to what's happening now, and we look to what's happening, what will happen in the future, and that is super important as we continue to build and grow as a nation and continue to love on each other as a nation. Tonight's guest is Jackie Johnson. She is the mother of Kendrick Johnson. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Finding Kendrick Johnson is a documentary that is on Stars, is on Amazon. And this story happened back in 2013. So we're going to get some more details about it. But make sure you go out on Amazon and you take a look at the story, support. Get connected with Jackie Johnson. She is on Facebook, and her Facebook name is Jackie KJ Johnson. KJ is for her son, Kendrick Johnson. So let everybody know how they can get connected and stay tuned with the storyline and what's happening. While we are getting ready for the guests to come on and share tonight, I want to give you some details about this case and why it's important. Several years ago, her son, Jackie Johnson's son, was found murdered in his high school. And he was wrapped up in a gym mat, upside down. He went missing the night before. The very next day, he was the very next day he was found, and it was in high school, at the high school, and in the high school where he was found, he was the mats was all over the place. There was blood everywhere. It's a really great story. You have to go to Amazon to watch it. I'm not giving great details. There were no gunshot wounds. The city that this happened in, the city and state, is Valdosta, Georgia. So right up the street from Montgomery, Alabama. The county is Lowndes County High School, and this happened in January of 2013. The incident was initially ruled as an accident, and the fight for the family has been, how do we get justice for our son? How do we move forward to get justice so that our son can be and will be given the opportunity to have his true story told by everyone? Now, just recently in January, the case was opened several different times, and just recently in January, the case was closed again. The family has been fighting. They've been fighting for years and years and years. And this fight has led them to this point where they are ready to just continue to get the word out and continue to get support as as they are continuing to fight for justice for their son. So now, with no further ado, We're going to bring on Miss Jackie Johnson so that she can share her story. She can share the story of her family, and she can tell you more about where they are, her experiences, and what she's been through. Let me bring her on now. Miss Johnson, hello. Miss Johnson. She may be having some technical difficulties. We know that the weather is really bad out there, but she is I'm going to share with us in just a few moments about her son. Again, it was initially ruled an accident, but now is they're hoping that the police will be able to find some way of determining or really getting justice for her family. This case has been seen as a modern day Emmett Till case. There are pictures on the internet of him where he was found. There's stories about what happened surrounding his death, and it is really important that we continue to fight these injustices as we think about all over the past couple of years, the experiences that we have had where people have over and over again experienced injustice by the hands of the police, from the hands from the hands of the police, from the hands of others around them. And this is actually a modern day case of when the story that happens in Valdosta. If you know the history of Valdosta, it is very full of a lot of racism, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. It is still a very there's still a very thick line between blacks and whites that lives in the city, and her story outlines this case. Again, this is the story of Kendrick Johnson. It's Finding Kendrick Johnson, and it's on Amazon. You can watch the documentary. There's so many great pieces. Now, one of the things that her mother said in the documentary is, the truth is coming. The truth is coming. And I found that to be really great and really inspiring, because we have to remember that whatever we're going through, whatever's happening, that there's a truth that will always prevail in every single case. And the truth is, what's happened will not be hidden. And they have gone through and they have put their case in front of different people. As a matter of fact, in the documentary, there is a gentleman, his name is, I want to give you his name because Mitch Cradle. He is a veteran homicide detective from Washington, D.C. He is currently reviewing that case. And by reviewing that case, he has a task force. And that task force was trying to get this case resolved and solved. But there were so many hiccups, there were so many adversities, so many challenges to getting it solved and resolved, that they actually took him off the case, which is the first time this has ever happened. If you know anything about it, when they resumed his body to do some autopsies on his body, they found out that all of his organs were taken out of his body and it was replaced with newspaper. I'm going to say that again. When they resumed his body, all the organs that were supposed to be there, they were not there, and they were newspaper was put in their place. Now, why is that important? Because of that, they were not able to really move forward in the case and do more examination, because the family hired their own coroner, because the coroner immediately said this looks like an accident. But they hired their own coroner, and that coroner could not do the test that he needed to do because the organs were not there. The funeral home said they never received his organs. They said they never received his clothing. They said all these different things. But and then according to the police, all those things were sent to the funeral home. But let me tell you how big this case is. Even in that, the funeral home never got charges. They never received any penalties. They never received anything saying that you were wrong for actually having this, or using putting the newspaper in his body like this. So there were nothing that was ever done to that funeral home that actually had his body, and they used newspaper to put in his body instead of the organs. All right. Now I just want to keep telling you, there were videos missing. So the one of the main people who they thought was having issues, the main person they thought was having issues, he he I'm sorry, Diggle Miss Johnson, she's back with us. I'm gonna bring her in just a second. But even at that, some there were missing body parts, his clothes were missing, his fingers had marks on it that was never thought of initially. They found hemorrhaging around different places on his body, and those are things that happen just a little bit. So I know Miss Johnson will have more to share to the story. Miss Jackie Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening. Yep. Let's see if we can unmute your mic because you're still muted.
Good
Thank
evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you've been super busy today, but I'm so glad that you were able to be with us and be able to have this discussion. This is a really a big case, and I'm excited to have you on. We've been here talking on Hearts and Heels this month about love talks, and our talks have been talking about
I can't
everything.
hardly hear you.
I'm sorry. Tonight, can you hear me now? You got me? We've been here talking about love talks, and we've been talking about everything dealing with love, and we know February is the month of love, but I want to spend this session did tonight talking about your son's case and your case. And I see the poster in the back and just some of the things that you've been through. First of all, I want you to tell me, what do you remember most about your son Kendrick Johnson?
Being the lovable child he was the joy of our house. He used to just make everybody laugh when he came in the room. You know, we just had so much fun. It was just like a king walked in the room, the king that he was. Like, he just used to do some of the weirdest stuff. He would come in, and him and my daughter had already graduated, so she'd be in the bed, and he just come in there and jump on her bike, and they run through the house wrestling and playing, and he was just the joy of our life.
Wow. Well, I thank you for sharing that. How are you? How is your family doing? How are you coping with things now?
We just taking it 1 second at a time. It's a
Mm.
lot.
It is a lot. I love that you say 1 second at a time. Now, I've given some general information about, what was happening with your son while you were working through the technical things. But I want you to tell me about, take us back to the day when your son was missing, and what that felt like, and just that is the experience of those that day and the next day when they found him in the gym.
Ooh, that day was the longest day ever. Felt like it was never ending. The day he went missing, and it was that evening when we really, found out, because he didn't come back to the bus yard with the bus driver. And, I was just thinking like it was strange because he hadn't let nobody know that he was going to stay after school for a basketball game. And even if he would a football game, he would always call right then and let his dad know, or either myself or one of his older siblings. But, nobody had heard from him. And that was just like so out of the ordinary, because wherever you go, you're the baby of the family. So you're going to let somebody know. If you can't get in touch with your dad and me, you're going to let your other siblings or somebody know where you at all times. And Lord knows that was just one of the worst feelings ever, not knowing where your child is.
Yeah.
And then for him to, the last place for him to be at is at school, and to find him dead at school. Like, it was just so unimaginable, because it was no shooting or anything. It's just
Yeah, it is. So just watching the documentary Finding Kendra Johnson. First of all, I want to thank you for sharing your story in that way, because it really gave me some perspective. I didn't necessarily want to watch the documentary, but when I watched it, I came across it and I was compelled to watch it. And I've been following your story for a long time, and you provided a lot of information. After you found him, the police immediately stated that there was no trauma to his body, but there were pictures that showed that there were trauma to his body. What type of injuries did he sustain, and why does that make you feel like this was not an accident?
he had so many visible bruises on his face, to his neck, to his jaw, his lip. And you cannot, a mat cannot beat you up. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care how they allege you fell in the mat. A mat cannot beat you up, bust your lip, uh, look like your jaw was broken, your nose was broken. A mat don't do all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
from day one, they began lying when they said it was no physical. They didn't even want us to see Kendrick. They didn't
Mm.
let us identify his body. We know right then and there that they was lying and they was covering up something.
Yeah, and even the placement of the shoes, those type of things. And if you watch the documentary, in case you're just joining in, this is Hearts and Heels on 90.7 WVASFM. And we have Jackie Johnson that is on with us. She is the mother of Kendrick Johnson. There's a documentary called Finding Kendrick Johnson. I had to get it all right. This happened back in January of 2013, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and she's sharing her story with us. Now, Miss Johnson, I want to know, there were pictures leaked of his body on social media. How did that make you feel seeing those pictures?
All I can say is, as a mother, if you don't have to see those pictures, do not. That
Yeah.
has traumatized me for life.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing my son's pictures distort, with his face distorted. If I didn't know, if I wasn't his mother, I wouldn't know who that child was. That's just how bad he was. And then it was so many different pictures. He was one way at
Mm.
Lowndes High School, then another way in the crime lab, and then when we got his body back at the funeral home, he was a total different way.
Who released the pictures?
This group called renewsit.com on the internet, all we knew. So it was
Mhm.
just some of the trolls and stuff trying to really trying to make us lose our mind with what they was trying to do, because I had not ever seen Kendrick's pictures or his body. His dad, when he identified his body, they wouldn't let me in because I was already out lost. So they wouldn't let me in. But his dad did go in and see him, and his dad just kept saying, "Jackie, you don't want to see him like that."
Mm-hmm.
He kept saying, "You do not want to see him like that," and that's the worst thing to ever, you ever want to hear.
But you have shared his pictures online. Why do you share them?
I share them to remind the public and the people that killed him what they did to my child, and it's not okay. I did
Mm-hmm.
not leak the pictures. Somebody else put them out there because they had a rumor going around that we put the pictures out there. I wouldn't have never
Mm-hmm.
showed my son the way he looked. I would have never. But
Wow.
since they put them out there and they thought that was gonna make me lose my mind, I'm gonna put them right back out there for you to always remind you of what you did January
Mhm.
10th, 2013.
Wow. Wow. So we have there were so many different things like insufficient evidence and all those kind of things. And again, this case has been compared to the Emmett Till's case. Why do you feel like it is similar, or what are the differences in this case? Because
It
there
is
are
so
quite a bit.
so many similarities, like the way his face looked,
Mm-hmm.
the racial parts of it, the
Mm-hmm.
lies. Then
And
I'm just praying that it don't come out like the lady came out, what, 50 years later, to want
mm-hmm.
to confess about, no, that. Oh, it's just crazy. It's
And in the documentary, it stated something about there was a girl involved in the case, perhaps that he and the guy was fighting over at one point. Is that truth, or is that just hearsay?
that's I want to say it's part of it. I'm gonna just say
Hmm.
allegedly for purposes. It's allegedly part of why this. So
Why this
they had
happened?
got in a fighting on the bus. It's so many. They had been fighting since through middle school, and he couldn't beat Kendrick. So it was just so much.
Yes, yes. Now we're gonna talk about that, but I want to make this quote from your husband. He said, "You have not had faith in Lowndes County. That you knew what the outcome would be from the beginning, and you can't do an investigation with the same investigators who covered it up. They're not going to uncover something that they covered up. What do you feel like was covered up?"
Well, they first of all, he lied, and the person that he's talking about, they just recently let him quietly resign again. They let him quietly resign, and it was the one of the police officers came went to the was first one on the news. One of the first officers on the news said there was nobody in the gym when Kendrick walked in the gym. Kendrick went to the left. If Kendrick went to the left, he walked into a brick wall, and he said it was a white guy walked in behind Kendrick. And if he went to the right, he also walked into a brick wall. And
Mm-hmm.
then come to find out when we got the did get the footage that was messed up, it was a gym full of kids playing basketball and people all
Mm-hmm.
over the gym. So if Kendrick would have went over there and fell in the mat, how nobody didn't see him nor
Mm-hmm.
hear him. Those white girls that allegedly found him said feet were sticking out of the mat. We
Mm.
pulled that clip up just the other day. Feet were. You mean to tell me it's a gym full of people and nobody's seen some feet sticking out of the mats? Come on,
Yeah, yeah.
you got to make some of this stuff make some sense.
So you just feel like they've covered it up, and we're going to talk about why to cover it up. But I do want to talk about the fight that he who was he supposedly fighting, and what did they say happened, the reason why he was fighting, which they think is tied to the case. And we're going to say think because no charges or nothing has been made and nobody has been accused. So what tell us the situation surrounding that.
The fight, well, they was going to this football game, and it was a what it's called, I guess all star, not all star, but championship football game. The high school was, and they were on the football bus, and my truck tore up on the way leaving out, so I had to turn around and go back home. So Brian Bell and Kendrick Johnson got in a fight on the school bus. They say Kendrick kicked his butt. Say
Mm-hmm.
they were cutting mama jokes, and Brian allegedly got mad at Kendrick and put him in the headlock and start pulling his hair or something. And
Mm-hmm.
when Kendrick got out of the headlock, he just beat him up.
Okay. So apparently the suspects or some of the people that you're suspecting that had something to do with that, he was fighting him. And so this incident is super important in the overall scheme of things. And and tell me about the cover up now. The cover up goes much further than just the fact that they misreport where they didn't give the right reporting of where he was and what was happening and how he was found. But even with the boys' fathers that of the gentleman that he was fighting, he was an FBI agent, right? So
Yes.
how much of that do you think is really playing into what's happening?
I think it played a major role into it. That's why no charges have been filed.
Mm.
Um, we know for a fact that some older FBI agents that had retired wrote into the Department of Justice and told them to close Kendrick's case.
Hmm.
So we know this is playing a big factor in it. He allegedly done called in some of his friends, and
Wow. 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 Wow.
then
Now,
in this city of Valdosta, there has never been a white person convicted ever of killing a black person.
never.
Never.
So that makes it just a little bit harder because you're still dealing with the racial aspect
Oh
of it. And
yeah.
I talked about a little bit at the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about Valdosta and the history of the town when it comes to racism and the of the inadequacies of justice when it comes to black and white people there.
Yeah, it's like Mary. Valdosta is the city where Mary Turner was lynched. At they cut her baby. The baby fell out. They stomped the baby on the ground.
Mm.
It was just it's terrible here.
Wow. So that back in the 1950s, or is this more recently?
No, this back in the 1950s.
Wow, wow. And you're still dealing with that today. It is 2022, and we're still dealing with that. Has it been really hard to deal with the number of judges that have recused themselves in US when all these people keep going, I mean, we have these people that keep leaving or keep taking themselves away from the case. How does that impact you and what you're feeling and what you're hoping that will be resolved with this case?
It just further lets me know that this case is being covered up, and a lot of people trying to take themselves out of it, which because they don't connected so many people that it's gonna take down a lot of people.
The witness, I'm really interested. So in the documentary, they talked about this one witness who was going to tell what really happened or tell a piece of it, but this witness went to jail, and then when they came out, they changed their story. Tell me more about that.
We have had a total of 3 people that tries to tell what happened to Kendrick. Every time they try to tell, they find them, they lock them up, they hold them in jail. The first 2 they hold in jail 6 months or longer.
Oh
So
wow.
the first one came out and he just changed his whole story. He just didn't want to have nothing else to do with it. The second one they kept in jail said they locked him up alleged for trespassing, but he stayed in jail a whole year.
Wow.
And then
And
this third one, he had brought us a confession tape. They tried to make like it was a hoax. So they got him and locked him up and said he was a known liar. How is everybody that try to tell what happened in Kitchen Case a known liar, or they come out and recant their story, or you just go find them and lock them up 3 different times?
so let me ask you, the all those people, are they having the same stories? Are
They are
they?
having the same stories, and all of them are white that's trying to tell.
Oh, so it's not black people that's trying to tell, but it's
No, it's
white
not
people.
black people. They're white.
Wow, wow. Is the father still in the FBI right now?
No, they let him allegedly retire too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want the FBI to look bad, even though they already look bad, but
Hmm.
they allegedly let him retire too.
But somehow he's still pulling strings
Mm-hmm.
within the.
Calling in favors.
Wow.
Allegedly calling in favors, yes.
And he's still. So are you in contact with those witnesses that recanted their story, or have you moved on?
No, we haven't spoken with them, but that's why the reason we're trying to raise money to get another private investigator to go right through and but the investigators are, I know they have to, they're expensive. So
Mm-hmm. How many investigators have you hired thus far to over the years to try to uncover some things?
this would be the third or the fourth one.
And let the audience know, how many years have you been dealing with trying to get justice for your son?
9.5 years. January the 10th will make 10 years.
Wow. Wow. And do you feel like you've made any steps towards justice, or do you feel like you're in the same place almost 9.5 years ago?
It just feels like you move a step up and you'll get knocked back. But I feel like we most definitely have made some big changes, and we're still applying that pressure. And this black family
Yeah, I
that's
think
in
you.
Valdosta that has
Mhm.
stood up to them.
Now, what do you think happened?
Hey,
What do you think happened? Oh, I think we got disconnected. Oh, I'm sorry. She'll be back in just a moment. Hopefully, she can come back on. As Jackie Johnson is sharing the story of her son, Kendrick KJ Johnson. In case you're just coming on, she's been talking to us about her son and the injustice that she's experienced. We know the storms are out there, and now she's back with us. Thank you for coming back. What do you think happened to KJ?
I think Kendrick was allegedly led in that gym. He was ambushed. He was beat to his death.
And so what are the next steps for you? Like what that if what are the next steps to get this case resolved and get someone to really hear the truth?
It's not even about nobody hearing the truth, because they know the truth. They know exactly from A to B to C to D.
Mhm.
They know exactly what happened to Kendrick. It's about somebody bigger stepping in, reopening Kendrick's case, and doing what's right. Doing your job. That's all it takes. Do your job. We're not asking for no favors. We're not asking for you to lie for us. All we ask is if you do your job. The job has not been done. You
Mm.
come on and you just tell lies that don't even make sense. Like,
Mm-hmm. So what does tell me, what does justice mean to you, generally speaking? How do you define justice?
I don't define justice because justice to me means my child being here. I define accountability for the people that killed Kendrick, to take accountability of what they done. There's there For none of the families that people have been locked up for, there'll never be justice. Justice means all our kids being here with us.
Mm. That's a great perspective. I never thought about it like that. Justice means that your child is here, but you want some accountability for what was done to you and what happened to you. Again, in case you just joining us, you listen to Hearts and Heels. We have Jackie Justin on, who's sharing her story. Remember, if you have not heard the story, go to Amazon, look up the documentary "Finding Kendrick Johnson." It is a great documentary. It tells a real deep story in detail of some things that you've experienced and some things that you are going through. How did it make you feel? With how does it make you feel knowing how the investigation has been treated over the years?
Just feel like a slap in the face that you can't get people in to do their job. I mean, it hurts because
Mm,
it feels like that my 17-year-old black child didn't matter at all.
mm. He was 17 years old, just in the prime of his life, getting ready for that senior year in school and going to his next. Um, and you said you think racism is one of the major roles that this is, you're in the state that you're in as far as this case and not being resolved and nobody having accountability.
Yes, because if this had been a black child, did this, they would have hurried up and prosecuted
Hmm.
him. They wouldn't have wanted this lingering over their head no 10 years. Most definitely, they're not covering up for a black child. They're covering up for a white child.
Now, I want you to explain to the audience because I've watched the documentary and I know some of the things that you've done over the years to gain attention to this. But how have you brought national attention and what are your plans to continue to bring national attention to your case?
The first thing we brought national attention, we blocked off the courthouse. We went to jail. Weren't doing anything about Kendrick. And so we blocked out the courthouse. We did a civil disobedience. We wouldn't let nobody in nor out.
In the courthouse in Valdosta?
In Valdosta, yes.
And how did that impact the case, or what did it do to
It
move?
spreaded national media coverage to it.
Mm-hmm.
A 17-year-old get killed and you arrest the parents of the child that got killed and they just want something done about their child.
Wow. So this was back in 2013, or has it
Yes,
been more recent?
2013.
2013. Okay. So then how many cases have been opened up? Investigations have been opened up in reference to this case?
um I want to say 3 or 4.
Three or four.
But
And they go
the
ahead.
one Michael Moore of the Department of Justice, he got scared. He got allegedly scared, and he quit the practice and went back into being a lawyer. He was
Mhm.
the head Department of Justice person. He said he was going to see this case through, no matter where it leads him, and he left. He was another coward on the case. And then after the rest of the Department of Justice took it over, they called us in. Me and my husband would not let an attorney come in to be present, as they told us the findings. They told us that they didn't have enough evidence to lock nobody up. They didn't say they didn't have no evidence. They didn't say it wasn't a murder. They said they didn't have enough evidence to lock nobody up.
And so the autopsies support that this was a homicide, correct?
Yes.
Now, these are the ones that you had done. There were some originally done by the city, and those state something different.
No, it was one done by the GBI, and she stated positional asphyxiation what caused him to die. But we know that was a lie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you had the body zoomed a couple of times, right?
Yes, we had his body exhumed twice,
Right. And that's
and
when you found out the
it was
organs.
yeah, it was blunt force trauma, and every internal organ that was in my baby body was missing. His brain, his tongue, they took his throat, his windpipe, his heart, his lungs, his kidneys, every internal organ to his pelvic was missing out of his body.
Wow.
Then
And
they took had the nerve to cut the back of his neck and like took some knives and just like gutted him. Like you took a knife and just let his body just slid down the knife. Like just doing stupid stuff, trying to cover up like the bruises that were on his neck where it looked like his neck was broken. Like it was so much stuff on there. And you didn't they don't want to be called by it. Look like they helped try to hide what they did to my son.
wow. Do you know who was responsible for doing this to him? Was it the coroner, or was it someone from the funeral home?
Not the coroner. It was the people in the crime lab in Macon who did it.
Wow. Has anyone gone to jail related, or has anyone been fired in relation to taking the organs out of your son's body?
No, everybody trying to blame everybody else for the organs missing. His
Wow.
clothes went missing. His fingernails was clipped on the scene. Nothing, never been done. Yes, his fingernails were clipped on the scene. The sheriff stated to the news on the news that they found fingernails. What Kendrick was in upside down in the mat, he had enough time to clip his own nails. Make it make sense. Like it's just so much.
And the tennis shoes, I saw what was confusing for me is, again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Finding Kendrick Johnson, the documentary. His mother has graced us with her presence. I'm honored to have you, Jackie Johnson, with us tonight, and we're talking about her son KJ Kendrick Johnson, who was found murdered in 2013 in Valdosta, Georgia. What's the name? I had the high school name, but it was in Valdosta.
Mounds High.
Okay, and he was found wrapped up in mats, and the mats, and I specifically wrote this down because I wanted everybody to be aware of it. The mats was six feet tall, and your son was 5 feet tall, right? And they're saying that he reached over into the mat to try to collect his shoes, and he got stuck in the mat. And everything that you have shared with us, and everything that you see on the documentary lets you know that that just is not possible from that happening. And so now it brings us to the shoes. They say he was reaching over in the mat to get some shoes, but the shoes he was reaching for were found inside the mat. Was there an explanation for the other?
Okay, it was two pair of shoes. The
Okay.
ones that were behind his legs were the ones that he had on. The other pair that he supposedly went to try to get out the mat was a pair of shoes that he changed into go to weight training in PE.
Wow. And so those shoes, where were those shoes found near him? I know you didn't see it.
One shoe was found, one shoe was placed under his head in the mat, but that shoe Kendra had vomited. Kendrick had fluids leaking out his body, but that shoe had no fluids on him. That shoe had no blood on him. That shoe had no vomit on it. But yet it was directly under Kendrick's head. As you know, by Kendrick having dreads, his dreads is drenching with the fluids, the blood, and the vomit. But none of it touched that shoe. None of it. And there's no way in the world
So how did they explain vomiting?
they didn't.
No explanation.
Okay, they said whatever he ate last by him being upside down, it came back up.
Wow. Wow, wow. So we have had and they found another pair of shoes that had blood on it. But well, had stains that looked like blood, but they said they tested it, and it wasn't blood. It wasn't his, correct?
They didn't test the shoes at all. They didn't even bag or tag those shoes. That's a lie.
Wow.
They didn't even keep those shoes. They know those shoes belongs to somebody that was in that gym that Kendrick was tussling with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there was blood on the walls. Did they test the blood on the walls?
They didn't test that blood. They said it. I don't think they knew it wasn't Kendrick's song. So you mean to tell me you got janitors in this gym and a janitor go home that night seeing all that blood that's on that wall and just leave it there?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're saying, okay, I get it now. I see what you're saying. So he was there. Supposedly this happened during school, and you're
Yeah.
saying at nighttime they have people there, if somebody would have seen it. So are you thinking that somebody came back in the middle of the night and did these things?
They most definitely they did come back in the middle of the night.
Okay, you went out for a second. You said they did come
A
back.
light came on that was supposed to be a motion light.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we lost her again. She was talking about that in the middle of the night. So in the gym, he was found in the gym, and supposedly he died during the daytime. And she's saying that she's back. So you're saying that there was a motion light. We lost you there.
Yes, the motion light came on during the middle of the night, but they didn't never discuss who it was or why that light came on. So most definitely somebody went back in that gym to where they had put Kendrick's body.
And so that's another one of the investigator, Mitch Cradle. He was on a lot. He really gave a lot of great feedback, like from the back end of investigating. But he said a lot of the video was missing, and it was in different places. Have they been able to piece some of those videos together since this documentary?
Not since the documentary. I don't think they have reached that far. Like the documentary was just a lot to show how
Mhm.
to cover up corruption and all that went. So now that's on the bike end where we're with the investigators and more stuff to come.
Now again, Mitch Cradle, and I say his name because I think he was one of the ones that really felt your story. I remember one of his comments. He said, "Solving this case is like solving this case for I see myself in his father and Kendra Johnson's father. So that's my son too. So he was really vested in this. He was on a task force. He been in homicide for 23 years from Washington D.C., and he said it's still no rest. So I have a question for you. What do you need from us as the public as you continue to move this case forward?
I need like the public to like really stand up. Like we need people to move in numbers. Like we haven't had that. We just need more attorneys. We need people to help, finance the case. I mean, pretty much everything that from ground zero.
So you're starting over again. This is a new start. And the reason why it's a new start, because January they decided, and when I say they, I think the police area and the department, they decided that it was not enough evidence to move forward in the case, correct?
No, the sheriff closed the case.
Hmm.
He made a 16-page report full of lies and said he was 100% sure that this was just a weird accident. Mind you, nobody's 100% sure of nothing. Not 100%.
So why
And
does
he
he
said it was a weird accident. But how do you get a weird accident from somebody being murdered? No.
so what was his support? Like what evidence did he say he had to support that it was an accident?
He didn't have no evidence. These are little theories that he brought together. He just was throwing up stuff like what the ear would catch. Like Brian and Kendrick were friends. They did a project after the fight on the bus, lying, telling more lies. Like, man, my son did not like that boy, period. So
Mm,
don't sit up there and lie on him like he dead and gone and y'all still lying.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like you just got it. And my husband went on news and called him out on every lie that he told, and it
mm-hmm.
didn't make no sense. Like you'll
Within
get on national news and tell these lies. Like we wouldn't responded to him and all that. You wanted us to lock up a person that gave us a tape. Well, he sold us the tape for $1,000, and he said he got mad because we didn't want to have him prosecuted, because we know 9 times out of 10 that tape was who that boy said was on that tape. Why would we help you lock him up? You you're not worried about Kendrick killers being locked up. You're trying to you're trying to turn the public eye toward a confection tape.
Mm-hmm. So this is, you have a copy of a confession tape?
Yes. Excuse me, honey.
You're fine. A confession tape, and that still was not evidence. So is it because they said it's not valid?
They trying to make like it was a hoax.
Wow, wow. Um, Ashley Paul,
Yeah.
he wrote this statement. He said, because your family has continued to call him a liar, that he would personally, with his own funds, offer $500,000 to anyone who comes forward with the information that result in the arrest and conviction of a person for the alleged murder of Kendrick Johnson at Lowndes County High School. What share your response to that?
That was just like a slap in the face, and it just made me so mad. Like, you would just come out and say it was a weird accident, like this is a freaking joke. And then you turn around, because you know you put lies on that paper, for you to come out with $500,000 out of your personal pocket.
Do you think he would honor that?
No, never.
Mm, mm.
Never.
George Floyd, Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Dante Parker, just to name a few. When you hear these names, what do you think of?
I think of their mothers and the pain that they have suffered, and the numerous of children that keep on being killed and nothing being done because of the color of their skin. And it's so many children that people don't even know their name. You know the Tamir Rice, you know the George Floyd, you know the Ahmaud Arbery, but you don't know the Jarvis Lights, you don't know the Javis Benjamin, you don't know the Gabriel Grant, so many more that I sit around, Andrew Joseph, so many
Mm,
more families that I sit around their people, and you haven't heard their story, the pain in their people, in their mothers and fathers' heart. That what's the difference when somebody else shooting their child get all the publicity, but you yet hear nothing about their kid.
mm. So how does that relate to you? How does that relate to you? And um, what what are you gonna do in your mission to change it?
What I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna continue to stand up for every child that I can, to make sure there's never another Kendrick Johnson. And I can't say there won't be, but I'm gonna do my part in
Mm.
making sure I stand up for my child, and praying that the next parents, when it happens, because it will happen, that they'll be able to find strength to stand as we have been standing.
Do you feel like you're protesting? Do you feel like you're calling out of the people in the community that's mishandled this case and that's made inaccurate statements? Do you feel like that has made a change and a difference in your community?
Oh yeah, because we, like I was saying, we're the first Black family to ever stand up in Valdosta and continue to push. No matter what they throw at you, we still standing up for Kendrick Johnson, because his life matter. Like, so many other families have started out the fight, but they offer them a little bit of money and they just let it go, or they tell them this and they tell them that, so they just get tired of fighting. But I tell you what, like I always tell them, they killed the wrong child, but they got the right parents.
Wow. In case you're just tuning in, you listen to Hearts and Heels, and we am honored to have Miss Jackie Johnson on with us tonight. She's been sharing the story, and it's been a gut-wrenching story about her son, Kendrick Johnson, and his case. In case you hadn't heard, there is a series, there is a documentary, Finding Kendrick Johnson. You can find it on Amazon. Take a look at it. It gives more details. We have skimmed some of the high levels of it, but we wanted to definitely share with you because it is an ongoing case. And when we say it's ongoing, the her son went missing January the 11th, and they found him January the 12th. And when they found him. Rolled up in a gym mat, and she and her family, they have been searching and reaching and trying to get justice for her son, but they've always hit this wall, and this wall has continued to come against them, but they are stronger. We need your support. I'm not going to say we need your support. The family has just recently gotten a blow in January. The case was closed again by the sheriff's department, saying there was not enough evidence to convict anybody or to go forward with putting someone on trial. They have some very real evidence from a tape, a confession tape. They have witnesses who share stories that's been been they've recanted their stories because of the pressures of people around them. So we need your help to reach out to them. Tell the audience, tell the people, how can they get in contact with you? How can they join your walk, your stride for accountability? Because you said it's not justice, it's accountability. How can they join you in your efforts?
You can get in contact with me through Jackie KJ Johnson on Facebook, or you can email me at the KJ Foundation at gmail.com.
Okay, great. So make sure you tune in and join in and connect and get connected with everyone. Now, was it your mother or your husband mother that said the truth is coming?
My mother probably.
Your mother, she was very wise on that, and I love that she said the truth is coming. What do you say to those people who feel like they have beaten the system in reference to this case? What are your words to those people?
It's not over. So don't take your risk because it's not over.
What do you say to your family as they continue to support you and build you up? What do you say to your family, and as we are getting ready to close out? But what do you say to them as this journey and this fight continues?
Thank them for standing with me, being by my side. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart because this has been a long journey, and I know it ain't been easy for me, and I know it haven't been. I haven't been as easy for them because this here have you like an emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I want, as we get ready to close out the show, again, thank you so much for joining tonight. I know you're a busy woman, you're trying to take care of a lot of things. So I appreciate it because I'm really, this story touched my heart. I cried through the entire thing, every time I heard these things. And I'm just grateful that you
Yeah, they
came and
told me
shared.
that again.
Ma'am, did you say something? I couldn't hear. She went off, but the story is really powerful and touching. And again, it was really emotional for me. It was really amazing story. So make sure you go check it out. Again, it is called Finding Kendrick Johnson. It is on Amazon, and you can take a look at it on Amazon. So as we get ready to close out, Miss Johnson, I do want you to share for a couple minutes. I want you to first give some words to your son. Just what some things that you would like to say to him, and then just some things that you would like to share with the public. Like what is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to? How do you want to compel them to join this fight, and not just this fight, but fights that's happening with everybody all over the world when these injustices are happening. So again, thank you are listening to Hearts and Heels. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week we'll continue the series with Love Talks. We're going to be talking about love in a different way next week. We have some singles that'll come on and share and talk about their hardship in finding a man
It's not
next
over.
week on Love Talks. She said, "Child." So, Miss Johnson, I'm going to give it over to you right now. If you would just share a message to your son, and then share a message to the world, what you would like for them to know or say.
Son, I love you. I miss you so much. And it's not over. And I know you know the type of parents that we were, that we're not going to never give up. And I know you sitting down smiling at us for the fight that we have fought this long for 9, almost 10 years. And just know we're going to continue to fight. The love that we have for you is eternal, even in the grave. And to the public, please, please stand up. Stand with us. It's time. It's past time. Kendrick deserves justice, and without your help, I ain't say I'm not gonna say we're not gonna get justice, but we do need y'all help at any point. Contact us at the KJ Foundation at gmail.com or on my Facebook page at Jackie KJ Johnson. And let's all just stand up. It's time.
It is definitely time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's nothing like loving your children. And again, this story makes life so valuable. Your daughter said something in the documentary that really got me. She said, so many people take our families for granted. We take our relationships for granted. And she was talking about how there was she loved her brother. There was a moment she had him, and there was a moment she didn't have him, and how taking family for granted. So this week, as we're closing out Hearts and Heels, I'm gonna say this: do not take your family for granted.
That's right.
Do not take the people around you for granted. It's important to tell people that you love them, that you care for them. It's important that we tell our children every day. In addition to that documentary, there's a movie out that talks about the school shootings that happened over years and how the kids cope with them. Life is happening. And because life is happening, we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know
Right.
what the future holds. So, in Love Talk tonight, I am admonishing you, I'm challenging you to go to your loved ones, tell them that you love them, and hug them, because you never know when that opportunity will come again. Forgive where you need to forgive, let go where you need to let go, be the bigger person where you need to be the bigger person, whatever it is that you need to do. But hold on to your family, love on your family, love on your children, and let them know that you're still there. Watch Finding Kendrick Johnson. Connect with Jackie Johnson. She has a powerful story, and this is a mother who has endured. So I am asking each of my Hearts and Heels people all over that's listening through radio, through social media. Let's lift them up in prayer. Let's cover them in this journey. We know that God can uncover anything. So our prayers need to be that God uncover, that God reveal, and that God bring someone who has the boldness and the courage to move things forward in your case. We pray that God's continue blessing and strength be given to you, and your peace that keeps giving you energy and strength to go through this fight. I'm glad that you're still here. You have given me strength tonight, Mother. You are an inspiration to us all. Keep fighting, and know that you have a fighting team here at Hearts and Heels. So you call us when
Thank
you
you.
need us. We're connected. You call us when you need us, because we want this to be. We want accountability to happen, not justice,
Right.
accountability to happen for your son and for other sons and other daughters who
Yes.
lost because of things that have happened, that people have done to them, and that's what we're trying to get rid of in tonight's show. So thank you, Miss Jackie. I appreciate you coming on tonight. Now remember, tune in next week to Hearts and Heels. We're still talking about everything. This month we have had so many different shows talking about everything. This was a special show for me. But next week, join us. We're gonna have other special shows. And remember, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. And if you can't put your heart in it, put your heels on it and walk away, because it's important for you to stand on solid ground. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Hearts and Heels.